Let me introduce our panelists. We have Dover Police Officer Gary Graver.
Hi.
Sherburne Police Officer Ben Stickney. Chief of Police for Dover, Chief McGowan.
Good morning.
Chief of Police for Sherburne, Chief Thompson.
Good morning.
Assistant Headmaster Andy Verkeeden. Good morning. Dover Sherburne High School nurse Yuri Santos. Good morning. And parent and local parent and pediatrician volunteer Shelley. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Gary and Ben.
All right. Good morning, everybody. How you doing today?
Good morning.
Good. We have some gizmos here, some gadgets that you'd all probably be interested in. This is stuff, paraphernalia that's been taken off of students mostly over the past couple of years. Just give me a second. Let me show. Right here is a vaporizer. And what we have here is a container of wax, oils, which is a new way of, I guess, doing marijuana. Kids are starting to get better at different ways to do like marijuana and other drugs to keep police and parents from figuring out what it is. This new type of method can be very dangerous because it's being cooked with things like butane gas in order to get it melted down through the wax portion of it. So I'm going to pass this around. If you want to take a smell, go ahead. Even the cover, you can get a look at what it doesn't look like the normal marijuana that I'm accusing you of knowing what marijuana is. But anyway, what most of you may think it looks and smells like, which is a leafy substance. All right? So what they're doing with that is they're melting it down to, it looks like wax, honey, syrup, whatever you want to call it. And they're just using it in different ways. This right here is a vaporizer, all right? Okay, yours is in the crowd, excellent. That's the older model. It weighs about 10 pounds. This is a newer model. It weighs a couple pounds. This was taken off a student by Ms. Keegan at the high school and handed over to me probably sometime, I think this one was this year. This year or last year. These are pretty high tech, and law enforcement, we cannot tell what is coming out of it. What it looks like is a simple flume of smoke, and it's going to smell fruity, cinnamon, maple syrup, you name it, because that's the type of juice that they put in the canal here. All right, so you can buy little bottles of it's typically one of the most popular brands. It's called Slimy's E-Juice. You can get that right online. It's about $20 and it's about 4 ounces. And you can get it in there's hundreds and hundreds of different flavors. It's crazy. All right. So you get this stuff.
Well, too, right?
Yeah.
This is we pulled this off. Chief actually had this one, but disguised as a highlighter, but it actually is a pipe inside. So it actually writes, has a highlighter tip. Feels like a highlighter, looks like a highlighter, but if you pull the back end off, there's a pipe. You can smoke. You can bring whatever you want. But the e-cigarettes do the same thing. They're, like I hear you were saying, my model's a little bit older, bigger, but they're starting to look like writing pens. There's some that work and function as writing pens.
And you pulled that off with someone at the school?
No, she had this. I got that through search warrant when I worked with the frame. So they are out there. So if you in your kid's room and they got a bunch of highlighters, could be highlighters. Yes, ma'am.
Just a question on these, what he has and what you have. When you talk about the strawberry juice or whatever, can that be used to disguise pot marijuana from smoking?
Yeah, we were gonna. Excellent. That's a great question. What we're having trouble with is differentiating what is actually in the e-cigarette or the vaporizer. So what they're doing is sometimes with just a simple vaporizer that we have in there, if it's unscrewed properly, you can put a little bit of the wax right next to the heating coil. So what it does is it heats up the marijuana, you inhale it, you get the THC effect. When you exhale it, it blends into the e-juice. Can't smell it. So it smells like cinnamon, vanilla, whatever you want to call it. Other things like this is a simple e-cigarette right here. All right, this actually is used to burn the leafy portion of marijuana. So if I were to take this off, you can see the ashes inside it. Okay? So I'll pass this around in a second. So this was used basically to just smoke regular marijuana inside the heating coil here. This we can smell. this we can detect. Even though there's not much we can do about it anymore, we can smell and detect it, all right? But at least we know that it's marijuana, and if it's a driving situation, we have OEY.
And this is just your standard marijuana, leafy, you can pass that around and smell it. What Eric's referring to as far as the wax is this dark brown substance. Very minimal odor, if any, and as Harry mentioned, we actually had someone in town, what they do is they cook it. So they filter the marijuana with butane gas, medical grade butane gas. And they put it into a pan, and then they cook it on the stove. There was actually a house in Medfield, a young man was cooking in his garage, and then removed the garage from the house after it exploded on him. But they cook it with butane, and then they pull it out, and then they basically just burn off the butane, and what you're left with is high concentrated THC marijuana. And then they take that, they put it in e-cigarettes, and they smoke it. But there's very little smoke, very little smell, and it's pretty easy to conceal. I mean, you can take a little bit of that wax and pretty much hide it anywhere. And if it's in a bedroom or something, you're not going to be able to get that odor like the marijuana.
Correct. And also, that amount of wax right there is going to provide a lot of kids a lot of fun for a long time.
Yeah, that's
because
probably
that's just, yeah, I mean, if you were to have an ounce of marijuana, it's going to be in a baggie about this big. That, we have some sort of equation that the deputy chief in Norfolk County came up with, but it hasn't been adapted by the courts yet. I mean, we can look at it and say, well, this is an ounce of wax, which equals 6 ounces of regular marijuana, but that hasn't been adapted yet by the courts. So we just have to take in consideration that when we see something like that, we automatically go with distribution, because that's a lot. That will last a kid a long time. What I'm going to pass around next, this is an actual e-cigarette with the wax on it. If you do touch it down by the bottom here, well, you're going to go home smelling like weed, which none of you want to do. Okay? All right? Your kids are going to start questioning you.
So the wax, I mean, I'm sure you can buy it the same as like you can buy marijuana, but it's not for sale, commercially. Yes, usually, and that's the most dangerous process is the butane, the cooking, the extracting portion of it. That's the most dangerous portion that we see. You get a lot of explosions. I mean, they're cooking open flames with basically gas. But no, you can't go out to the store and buy just the wax. You can. They just opened a store in Holliston, just over the Sherburne line. That just all they sell is vaporizers, tools, and basically things that kids can use to start using marijuana or immediate tobacco. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm seeing people in retail stores with big apparatuses, and then I see a big cloud of smoke over their head. Does that mean that they could be smoking pot
They
in
could.
a retail store?
Yep. And it depends on what they put in the vaporizers. Some, depending on what base they use, will smoke more than others. Or if they're smoking a wax product or, even just a leafy vegetable, matter type of marijuana, they could conceivably be smoking that right next to you.
This is a grinder. All right? You're taking regular marijuana leaves and you're grinding them down into a pure form of THC. Smaller leaves, you can put in smaller leaves, you can put into electronic cigarettes. All right? You unscrew it. You put it in this little screen thing and you chop it down. This one's actually automatic. You press this little button and it vibrates and does the grinding for you. So it's amazing what they come out with. I don't even know how much one of these costs, but I'm going to pass this around too. If you want to unscrew it, go ahead. Just try not to, again, spill marijuana on you or you're going to smell funny. The one thing that we're running into with vaporizers, and she brought up a great question back there. Somebody could be driving by us as we're running radar and somewhere in town, wave at us as they have a big plume of smoke coming out of their mouth and smile and just drive on. What are we going to do? There's nothing we can do. All right. Now, at least in school, if anybody is found with any of this apparatus on, it doesn't even have to have the juice or marijuana in it. It's now an automatic suspension. So with school, it's enforceable. All right. Out on the streets, when it comes to tobacco laws, I can't arrest a 16-year-old for having tobacco. I can take it from them, but I can't arrest them for it. So that's what we're running into is the enforcement part. With law enforcement, we're playing catch-up as opposed to being out in front because all these laws are passed in typical Massachusetts.
I would say most of the kids that we run into too, Harry, have them in their vehicles. That's usually, they're almost all driving around with some type of, vaporizer or some type of smoking apparatus in their vehicle. That's usually where they're either hiding it or keeping it or disguising it, but it's almost always found in their vehicle.
And again, I can take it, I can confiscate it. The only way I would be able to know if there was marijuana in it would be if we took it apart and started snooping around and sniffing things and everything like that. But I'm not a canine, he's not a canine. I mean, we can kind of have a general idea if the kid, has bloodshot eyes, slurred speech, unsteady on his feet, that there's something else in there besides, nicotine, which is the basis of the juice. The e-juice by itself, it still has nicotine in it. So you still can't have that on school campus either.
They also have milligrams as far as what you can buy. So you can buy, 1 to 2 up to 15 to 20 milligrams. So if you wanted to, adjust whatever your intake is, you can do that simply by just buying a different type of juice.
So there's no quick test that, almost like a quick strep test in the doctor's where you breathalyzer thing?
Not for the wax.
For
no.
THC? I mean, has anyone ever talked about that down the line?
I think they're trying to develop it more as it's becoming more popular. It's a time of how long science takes and how long the courts take to accept that. But
these vaporizers are being pushed as a healthy alternative to just regular smoking. The science is still out on that. We're still trying to figure out. They're saying it's healthier in the short term, but we're not sure in the long run because you're still inhaling things, right?
Right.
So that's how it's being pushed. That's how it's being advertised. And it's just something we're going to have to battle, going forward as far as all the kids that have these things. And if you were to research kind of how these things work, you can just mess around on the computer and Google some things. My handout that I have on the table out there is pretty interesting if you want to read it. It explains the difference between e-cigs and vaporizers, all right, and how they work. And it's just one of those things, you have to familiarize yourself with it. And we as law enforcement, again, we're playing catch up and we're trying to figure out what's what at this point. The good news is
this a vaporizer or an e-cig?
that's an e-cig.
That's an e-cig.
Okay, but we don't even know what we're looking at.
Yeah. But they did change it to smoke the wax. So you can tailor them to pretty much do whatever you want to do.
Right. The good news is there's a lot of education on how these things work. The bad news is if you were to spend 20 minutes on YouTube, you would be able to find hundreds of videos on how to re-engineer these things to be marijuana acceptable, how to actually make wax out of butane, how to actually put it in a metal pipe and filter it. So that's all the stuff that we're battling too, is this stuff is so readily available on the internet.
I think that's definitely something parents at home should keep an eye on. Going through a lot of coffee filters or, missing little things like that. It doesn't take much to cook it up. It's pretty quick. We did have a case in town, and basic things in the house are what they're using to make it. They're not going out and buying, big expensive kitchens. They're using, Pyrex dishes and coffee filters to blast through some marijuana and then just cook it down. So, something to keep in mind, if you do, see something out of the ordinary.
And why your kid always smells like fruit.
Yeah.
And simple things like that.
Is that highlighter? Is there a loader to the highlighter?
Is there? Oh, well, there would be. There's a little bowl right here, so you would put your substance in there. I suppose if they didn't clean it, yeah, there would definitely be some type of holder. And this is more for the leaf type, whatever you're smoking. It's not really meant for a wax. A wax you have to burn at a higher temperature to get that smoke off of it. That's just a quick flame to the marijuana.
Do they all smell fruity? All of the vaporizer and the e-cigs all have fruity smell to them?
That's usually what they're marketing is,
Yeah.
like they call it juice. I mean, it's pretty much directly marketed towards kids. But they call it e-cig juice, and they make flavors, they make different kinds, they make different concoctions. So usually they have that odor, but if someone's just smoking strictly wax out of it, it's going to have like an already burnt marijuana smell to it. But usually they mix a little bit of it, they'll put a taste to it.
And they do make nicotine-free e-juice as well. So that's also something, but the good thing about it is the school has now banned all of this paraphernalia. So it doesn't matter if there's nicotine on it or not, you don't have to prove it. If it's on your person, if it's in your bag, in your pocket, you get caught with it, it's an automatic suspension.
No, I saw an East Stream TV commercial the other night for juice at 7 o'clock at night, which was the first time I'd seen that.
It's pretty widely available. You can get it at the gas station, you can get it at convenience stores, you can get it pretty much anywhere now.
Are you guys able to look in kids' backpacks or go into lockers, or only if you hear something?
Not really. There has to be a really good reason for it. The school can. The school has a much lesser, they go by reasonable suspicion. So if there's something that might be going on, they can search a kid, look in a backpack, at which point that usually gets turned over to me. For police to search a kid's backpack, we have to move heaven and earth. So that's pretty much, so that's why it's really important that we have the relationship we do with the schools. Because without the schools, we wouldn't have half the paraphernalia that we do. So it's always a good thing, unfortunately. I'm not up here saying that every kid's vaping in the bathroom with their breaks, but you know, we've recovered quite a few over the past year and a half. It's definitely getting more popular. It's a cooler looking way. They can adjust the mouthpiece so they get a bigger plume of smoke when they exhale and everything like that. I mean, it's you know, 160. This one that I have is about $160. This wasn't bought in the store. This was bought on Amazon. So all these gift cards that kids have, they don't have to borrow mom and dad's credit card. They use these gift cards, go on Amazon, have this thing mailed to a buddy's house, and there you go. They have their vaporizer without you guys even knowing. So they're pretty smart. They really are. It's crazy. Yeah, go ahead.
I already asked you that these days are really big for minor, they have a lot.
18 and over in most towns. Some towns have gone 21 and over. Boston is trying to go 21 and over right now, which I think is great. But yeah, I mean, a 16-year-old, yeah, 16-year-old is not supposed to have that, but they get it anyway.
And actually, in Dover and Sherburne, they're not available unless you're both. There's no flavorings available in Dover and Sherburne, correct? And I think you have to be 21 or older to purchase an e-cigarette.
Terry, can you explain what the juice looks like in the convenience store, like when you buy it, what kind of container?
Yeah, it's gonna be a different color depending on the fluid. Like this, I think right here is some sort of vanilla. So it's gonna be dark in color like that.
But it's a small.
It's a vibe. It's not like a big bottle. It's gonna be like a 4-ounce vibe.
It almost looks like a little eyedropper. It's
Yes.
really small.
Exactly. Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
And are you smelling this on the kids in the high school?
Yeah, so when it's my, I was actually thinking so many of these questions I have, like, I'm trying to keep them in, but I'm going to address that, sort of what we're seeing at the high school, so yeah, just hang tight, I'll give you what we're seeing.
Does the juice, I'm still confused about the juice, does it have THC in it, or does it have nicotine?
Nicotine. It's basically liquid tobacco.
Pot in it?
No, you have to add it. You add it. That's what I'm saying is kids have become, even adults, these YouTube videos, they're really smart on how to get that into the vaporizer. So when it heats up, you're inhaling the THC because the marijuana is heating up inside that thing. You're inhaling it, but then when you exhale it, everything is covered up by the scent of the nicotine juice. So that's why it's hard. Usually when somebody smokes marijuana, it's a pungent smell. You know exactly what you're smelling. With this, not so much.
And the vaporizers cut down on the smell regardless of what you're smoking anyway, so it's pretty light.
Can I ask you a question about the wax? This is a whole new world to me. Do you have to cook it in the kitchen, or you say it has to be prepared with butane? Can you do it like a butane lighter?
No, you actually have to take the liquid butane. What they do is they take a tube and they fill the tube with marijuana, and then at the top they let the butane go and it filters through the marijuana and they put it into a dish. And then once the liquid butane marijuana is in the dish, they usually put it over some sort of heating element. Most of the time it's an open flame.
Yes.
And they basically reduce it down to the thickness of maple syrup. And then they scrape that out. There's a little bit more to the process. And then they have their wax. But you can't buy it commercially. You have to go out and buy marijuana, take it home. Usually the dangerous part is they suggest, because like Harry said, they're trying to make it sound like it's more healthy. They want you to use medical grade butane, which you can buy online. It's all about being healthy.
Yeah.
So you have to buy the medical grade butane, but kids that don't know that might just use the butane butane off the shelf, and it's very difficult to extract all the butane out of the oil and the
They
wax.
have been using the butane off the shelf.
Right,
That's why.
and that's why you get, kids get sick, and
Yeah.
you have explosions at the house, and fires, and it's
Because you don't get rid of the butane 100%. It's still going to be in that marijuana that it's going to be in that wax that they're going to use. So unfortunately, kids are getting sick. And you also got to understand, a little dab of wax is going to have a lot of THC. When you're used to smoking something that has 10 to 15% of THC in it, and all of a sudden you're using wax and it's 60 or 70%, you can overdose. You can overdose. So they tell you can't overdose on marijuana. You kind of can at this point. So you have to, kids are going to have to be careful, and you just as parents have to be aware of all this weird stuff that might be hanging around. Where did this big metal pipe come from?
yeah.
Why do you need it?
There's other closet filters going on.
Yeah, exactly, things like that. So, and it can be used, it can be cooked inside, it can be cooked in the garage, it can be cooked outside, but you have to be careful when you enter oxygen into a combustible, right? So you have to be careful with things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's similar to, it's just, they can pretty much do it anywhere. You don't need this big scientific lab. It can just be done with a couple of tools in your garage or in your backyard. Yes.
I have a quick question. Is this, when you smoke this way, is it more or less addictive or the same? It has the nicotine in it, it has the...
I think you're definitely getting more of it. I think that's what the kind of the whole consensus is that they're calling them concentrate. So you're basically taking, like Gary said, a 10 or 12% marijuana bud and making it 70, 80% THC. So you're getting a lot more.
So it's
a
more
lot
potent.
less. It's definitely more potent. And with the juices, you can buy higher grade milligrams of juices. So those are more potent as well. So there's definitely, you're smoking less and getting more. I guess is the...
And it's a much stronger high. It's a much stronger intoxication when you have 60, 70, 80% THC. So, I mean, it could take a normal, somebody who just smokes, marijuana 10 to 15% on a regular basis. If any of us have ever known people who smoke marijuana regularly growing up, there's certain perception of where that they are. What I've kind of been reading is the ones that are really have this type of concentration of THC on them, they're not that calm and collective type person. They're going overboard. They're violent. They're hallucinating. They're getting real sick. They go in the emergency rooms. This is all stuff that I've been reading. It's just, I haven't come across this yet, but just trying to prepare for what's coming ahead of us.
Harry, we got one more question?
Yes.
Ma'am?
I just was, the coffee filter is what, going at the bottom of the pipe, and then when it's...
Correct, yep, they put it at the bottom of the pipe just to filter out any leaves, stem sticks, or anything like that, just to keep it so it's a pure, it actually really does, they call it butane honey oil, it really does look like honey. And that's basically, then they just dry it out, and it just becomes a little sheet, and they can just, pick off another piece.
Okay, we're going to transition to the next portion of our program. We'll have questions at the end. But now I'd like to introduce Carrie Santos, who's the Dover Sherwood High School nurse, and Dr. Terry Shanahan, who's a parent and a pediatrician.
Hi, I'm going to go first. I'm Carrie Santos. I'm the nurse at Dover Sherwood High School. And I'm going to talk to you, we're both going to talk to you about the general health of the teenager. So thank you very much for sharing all of the vapes with everybody. We know that it's battery operated, so it turns the flavored liquid into a vapor. Unfortunately, our teens are developing. Their brains don't finish developing until they're 25 years old. So if you add nicotine to the vapor, it's very toxic for their systems. We found out that the prefrontal cortex, which is the area of the brain responsible for emotion and for impulse control, is still developing until the age of 25. And if you add nicotine, that can interfere with that development. It could lead to a lifelong addiction. So we know that although a lot of the kids are telling us that they're just using the vape, the fruity smells that we're smelling, they're also adding nicotine to it, and it's becoming addictive for them. If they choose to just use the vapor, the liquid that they're inhaling contains solvents, and those are carcinogens. Now, they haven't come out with enough statistics, but they're coming forward with it, and it's very scary. So I have a really good printout for you, and it said that in 2014 it was a banner year for e-cigarettes with 2.4 million U.S. students using e-cigarettes. There are 466 brands of e-cigarettes for sale, 10 states with no laws restricting minors from buying them. And in 2011, we had 271 calls to poison control for e-cigarettes. And in 2014, we had 3,783 calls to poison control. Right, so this is very dangerous for them. If you want to pass it around, I'll give it to you. Here you go. Okay, so the other thing that I'm going to talk about, as they vape, their lungs have not matured as well. And I think what was so amazing to me as I read through the literature was that it produced a lot of inflammation in their lungs. So in rats, they're saying that free radicals, which are spawned when they use the vape, with one unpaired electron can damage cells and actually tank their immune systems. So in addition to the nicotine being so addictive, I thought that was very impressive for them. If they continue to use, their throats will become dry and scratchy from vaping, their mouths can bleed, they can have intense inflammation in their lungs, and it's even saying that in rats, if they continue to vape, certain cells which are precancerous in their lungs could actually, the vape could trigger them and they could become malignant. So I think it's definitely shown that there is a carcinogenic effect in the vape. And all these stores are going to deny it, but the literature is coming out. We're not. So go ahead.
So we were asked to discuss kind of the health implications, and just in general conversations with some of the kids, they really are confused because they hear, well, you know, the e-cigarette is much safer than a cigarette, and they're confused. And so I think helping them understand is really important. There's a great quote, you know, you can be a lot less bad as a cigarette, but still pretty bad. And Officer Stickney referenced the place in Holliston, and in preparation for this, I just went to their website, and the owner on his front page says safety exclamation point. There's been a lot of debate on this topic, and until long-term studies are revealed, you will not know if there are any long-term effects. So these things have only been around, first in China since 2002, and in the United States for less than 10 years. So no studies are being done. And we're not going to know until this generation goes forward. What the owner says on his website says, it's, as it stands, e-cigarettes are still harmful. And currently, you know, the e-pen has only 2 known carcinogens in it, as opposed to the cigarette that has, you know, 6,000. But I think that's confusing for the kids. And, you know, one thing you think when you look at smoking in general, look at what the United States has done in terms of the social norm. From adults down to kids, it's really not great to walk around and smell smoke. And, you know, wherever you go, you get different looks. There's definitely public zones where it's not acceptable. And if you look at the number of kids smoking cigarettes, that's decreased. That social norm has been fantastically, you know, trickling down. What this does, though, it takes the smoke away, it takes the smell away, and it appeals to kids as being something that's trendy. Look at these flavors. You should read the name of the flavors in house. It's just fruity and blueberry waffles. But they love the technology. They love it that they can customize it. And they're going to be able to use this technology much better. And if you look at the United States, the way that e-cigarettes are being both marketed and used are very different in the adult population. What these really are marketed for adults, most of the people who use those were smokers. And so, yeah, if you put that with an adult next to each other, e-cigarette versus actual cigarette, as a method to quit or reduce, you know, the 7,000 toxic things you're inhaling, you know, that may be the better of the two evils. For kids, it's not that. This is a new experiment, and they're using it, as was alluded to be able to use it. It's a gateway to other agents that they'll figure out how to use this tool to maximize their benefit. And so they can take their high anywhere. And you really don't know, because you can't smell it. It's going to be hard, they're highlighters. It just illustrates, and the marketing is so much for this next generation. The FDA does not regulate any of these medical, as a medical device or the contents in them. So you really don't know what they're going to be buying. And they even have, how we have the FDA, they have the AVA, which is the American Vapor Association. And it really is a lobby for businesses to help, you can go on their website, they're helping small business owners, like this person in Holliston, create a market, and the market is the kids. You should see the pictures on the website. It looks kind of fun, but it's a candy store. So that's, I think, kind of some of the approach. And what is in it, there are physiological effects, both with marijuana or with nicotine. You will get an increased heart rate. There will be irritations to the lungs. One thing that people may not know is the amount of nicotine, so you can get the little vials with or without nicotine, but the amount of typical nicotine in one of the vials is enough if someone were to ingest it. Could be lethal. And there are numerous more calls now to poison control of younger children, more often like under 5. It smells good. They're curious. And if they find it, maybe it's a parent who's trying to quit smoking.
They're saying about 1 tablespoon could kill an adult, but maybe 1.5 teaspoons can kill a child.
And so I think you kind of have to, and then we'll move on, think about it, that whatever agent they're getting, whether it's the vapor from the chemical there, whether it's the nicotine, or whether it's THC, they all have a central response in neural pathways. Most of them affect the dopamine system, and they become addicted. And in a developing brain, when you're laying down all these pathways, these kids start craving it, and they don't know why, they want more. The caffeine industry also very recently has marketed to kids with all the energy drinks. This is another industry in a different mechanism that appeals to kids.
Sorry, can you just go over what are the babies ingesting? The little bottle with the
little liquid juice. It has nicotine in it because it smells good. Yeah.
How easy are those to open?
I don't know.
There's just a screw top. Yeah, there's no safety on it or anything.
I have a quick question from the webinar audience. Somebody says, I just found a vaporizer in my son's room with the e-juice. We have confronted him, taken his phone, computer, and cookies. What steps do I need to take now? Should I assume that he is addicted? What would be the signs of that?
That's a very good point. Anne is our next speaker, and she's going to go into a little bit about peer pressure, how we can help our children say no. So I think we'll pass it on.
Sure, I guess I'll just start with that. I think it's hard to know if they're addicted, and I always think when we're catching students in a bathroom with it, to me that's addiction, that they need to go in there and use it. So I think it's a conversation. I think it's hard to measure, but I think it's, I think it's a conversation with the son or daughter that they found it on. So I'm not sure if that answers that question, but the frequency of use, was it experimentation? Is it just the juice? Is there nicotine? So it's a good conversation starter. So I'm Ian Keegan, I'm the assistant headmaster up at the high school, and thank you to SPAN-DS for doing this. We're battling this. This is one of our biggest sort of issues, if you may, up there. And so we are just very grateful to SPAN for sort of putting this out there and partnering with all of us. So thank you. So I was asked to really speak what's going on at the high school, what are our policies, and what are we doing for prevention, maybe sort of around the health curriculum. So hopefully by the time I finish, you get a sense of all 3 of those areas. So we are seeing it, and I don't think we've spoken of the Metro West Health Survey numbers, so I just wanted to maybe start with that to give you a picture of what the numbers are. So the 2014 survey was the first time that we asked about e-cigs and vapes, so it's just sort of our baseline number. And what those numbers tell us is that our students, 9 through 12, that 38% of them have smoked an e-cigarette in their lifetime, and 25% smoked an e-cigarette in the past 30 days. So I always look at that past 30 days number as probably a number of like kind of somewhere around there as the regular users. So that's a pretty big number. Those are old tobacco numbers from when many of us were in high school. So that's really discouraging because the good news is we're down to really good numbers with tobacco use. So we've really done a nice job in that area, but here we are again. So I think like that's, concerning to all of us. And I would tell you that when those results came in, John and I just John Smith and myself sort of thought, of course, it almost validated what we were sort of doing within the building. So it sort of made sense. So, I think this is our number to sort of really start to bring down, and, something like this is a great avenue to really bring that number down and get some awareness. So we're seeing it. We are seeing it in our bathrooms. We're seeing it in our boys' bathrooms. We're seeing it in the boys' locker room. I will be honest, I haven't seen any girls with this issue. That's an interesting sort of dynamic. This year we haven't smelled any pot. Last year we had, reports of marijuana being smoked in the bathroom. And so how do we hear about it? We hear about it from faculty, from students who will come in, and parents will call us. And we're really grateful for those calls, and I would encourage those calls to continue to come in. And, we will sometimes come in the aftermath. The odor's there, but maybe the students because it were gone. We do get students with this. They're brought in, and we'll take that course. But with the e-cigs and the vaporizers, we'll see like a mist and smell the fruit, and it's in the air, and it's not the urine cakes, the boys from it's definitely this like.
Those are tasty.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, we can tell the difference, and you can see there's like a mist in the air, and so that's kind of what we're seeing. We're not seeing a lot of it, but we're getting reports that it's happening a lot. So it's how much is happening, we don't know, but we can respond to that. We have students that don't want to go into bathrooms because this is going on, and it's scary. It may be an e-cig, and there may be pot, there may be just the juice in it, but for some students, this looks like a drug deal, and this is like frightening to some of our students. And when a student doesn't want to go in a bathroom, that has our attention. So I think like that's sort of the picture we have right now. We have not had any reports of marijuana smells this year. We did last year. Let's see, our response. So, our response has been, we're trying to monitor bathrooms, asking faculty, especially male faculty, to just randomly go into the bathrooms. If they see, a group of students huddled together, if there's mist in the air, that's enough to bring them down for me to talk with and sort of proceed with. We're, trying to be vigilant in the areas that we've seen this, and we'll have more of a presence. We did a faculty training. First faculty meeting in September, we had Officer Graber came in and did the demo that you got today. And it was interesting. I think it's really helped. Faculty have come in and reported the mist and the smell. So I think they feel more educated, and they're part of. It can't be just John and I. We really need the faculty with this. So they appreciated that, and I really sense that there's a difference. We want the students to come to us. We're really messaging that. I think that students who are vaping know that we do not want this in our building. So I think we haven't seen a decline, but I think that the word is certainly out there. And certainly any opportunity we can to educate our students on this and to have conversations with them, we'll take that. So I'm thinking of one example is we had the PSAT day where we had the freshman wellness workshops. And one of the workshops that they visited was Adrienne Merritt, our health educator, did a 30-minute, e-cigarette 101 with them, just to really talk about it and have pictures and things like that. Stall Street Journals sometimes refer to vaping, and so it's education. So anytime that we can do that would be great. And one of the questions I get a lot is, well, what are they vaping? And I actually sort of heard that when the first officers were speaking. And, it can be hard to distinguish. The fruity smell is indicative that it's the vaping views. The one thing I will tell you is that when we're disciplining for marijuana, we always see an e-cig or a vape. So this is how they're using marijuana now. I'm not seeing joints, I'm not seeing rolling paper, I'm not seeing pipes anymore. The paraphernalia is the vaporizers and the e-cigs. So this is the new delivery system, and that's, I think the police would agree when they're pulling people, this is sort of how the delivery, and I don't know if it's because they're hiding it, it's quicker, it's, harder to smell. So that's, so we talk about the gateway, right? So that's a really important piece. We can tell when, if we get if we, confiscate a vape or an e-cig that smells like marijuana, and we do an impairment check, we can introduce to the students using marijuana. So what is our school policy? So it's against our policy, MIA policy, to have these, possess these, use these. At the end of September, the state of Massachusetts made these illegal for anyone under 18 to possess. So that, really helps us to sort of, and it can be anywhere from up to a 5-day suspension. Our very routinely, it's a 2-day suspension, and, that feels right, but I will tell you that every situation is different. We don't just have this blanket 2-day suspension. It really depends on the situation, and, there's a lot of factors that contribute to the number of days we give, but it's a suspendable offense. It's a chemical health violation with MIAA too, so if a student is an athlete, they will also suffer a consequence within their athletics of 25% of their season, depending on how many violations it had, that kind of thing. So that also can play into an athlete. And then, we have a citizen rule at DS where if a student's involved in a club or activity, that we would apply a very similar standard to their participation in clubs or activities as far as suspending them from that. So it really does depend on the student, and there's a lot of variables that contribute to it. And unfortunately, as parents, unless you're the parent involved, you don't know those variables, so it can be frustrating. We get it, but we're really trying to, consistency is something we really strive for, and really messaging that. So what are they doing in health classes and prevention? So health class, they in 9th grade they receive health. They have a health unit, a semester of health, and what they did was when the Metro West survey numbers came back from 2014, over the summer they revamped their tobacco curriculum and nicotine curriculum to really put an emphasis on e-cigs and vaporizers. So they're getting a much updated and modern sort of tobacco prevention in their classes with this. And when you talk with the health teachers about it, it's just what Dr. Shanahan said, that students think that this is safe. And so one of the goals of this health unit is to really talk about, we villainize cigars and cigarettes, but that's not really the case with e-cigs. So it's really sort of getting them to think about that and really think that this is not safe. So that's sort of the high school picture and the kind of where we stand, and I'll certainly take some questions on anything I didn't cover in that. Should we go to questions now, or, okay, that's great.
How long does it take for the vapor to kind of dissipate in the air? So
It's quick. I think it's quick. Seconds, yeah.
okay, so it's different than smoke.
Yes.
So it's
Because I'll get a call from a faculty member, hey, in the second floor bathroom, I think there's been some vaporizing, and I'll go up. If 5 minutes has passed, I maybe can smell it a little, but it's hard to discern. But when I've been there, right when they, I can see it and I can smell it, but it's quick. And our bathrooms don't have a lot of ventilation.
This one just has some of the juice in it, so I'll just give you a little. That's pretty much all it does, and that'll be gone in seconds. You probably can't even smell it. It smells a little bit like a cigar, but you can't even smell it. If it was pure marijuana, something like that, the smoke's almost gone, and pretty much the whole room would be able to smell that, but it'll be gone in seconds. Yeah. So it'll dissipate pretty quick. And again, it depends on, what they're using, what flavor, what odor, but definitely not as long as, a normal, leaf-based product.
Go ahead.
So I think what I heard you say is that if a student was caught with the consequences are not the same for everybody?
Well, it depends. Typically, it can be up to a 5-day suspension. Now, if the student's had another offense, depending on what we find when we do the search, can really dictate cooperation. Yeah, there's a lot of pieces, but to us, it's interesting. It used to be like a warning for if you were found possessing. So let's say a backpack's left in the lobby, and I'm trying to figure out whose it is, and I go in and I'm just looking and I find one. That would be a warning in the past, but we're going to be changing that language that's now going to be a suspendable offense. You know, if a student comes to us and has been found in a bathroom and has it on them, that's use, possession and use to us. So it's, you know, like, that's what I mean, like every situation is very different, but it can be up to 5 days, but typically 2.
Is there a minimum of 2? Is it always at least 2 days? Or
Minimum of 1.
Survey?
You know, we feel that 2 feels, you know, and again, it's just hard to put a number on it, but 2 is, I would say last year our average was 2 when we had these situations. So.
Disciplinary transfer.
No, that's a good question. So suspensions and discipline do not get sent to colleges. You know, we don't call them. We do not. They do need to, I know on some apps, check off a box if they've been suspended or not. So there is a box that they need to check that off. So,
Since we have kids that are afraid to go into bathrooms, is there a way to monitor the bathrooms and the locker rooms all the time? Is that just if that's where it's happening? Videos?
yeah.
No, really, is that?
No, it's not. So we've really done a nice job. I think that the locker rooms being locked much better now. I think that that's something that's easy to do. Bathrooms, and we can't put a person in a bathroom.
Right.
We have a lot of bathrooms, but we are asking teachers to pop into them in between class, during class, whenever they're walking by, and I think we've done a lot of that. We've heard that, you know, we had one area last year, one bathroom that we were really getting a lot of trouble with. So those teachers just, you know, we talked to them if you can step it up. So we actually heard that kids are going to the other one now because the teachers are always in there. Oh, that's great information, thank you. So I literally, you know, we talked with the staff and they were fine. So, you know, I'm not sure if that's helping or not. It's hard, you know, there's no data that...
And videotaping is not enough.
We do not have surveillance cameras in our building. I worked in a building that had a lot of it. It's very helpful in these situations. It can be a deterrent, but, you know, that's a community decision. That's a cost. That's a, you know, that's probably another meeting in itself.
Few meetings.
Yes.
Do the middle schoolers share a bathroom with the high schoolers?
Yes, so the science bathroom on the first floor is a shared bathroom, and we actually, Mr. Kelly has that open ajar all day now, and that seems to have helped in that area. That was, you know, a hotspot, but that is open, but yes, they do, that one.
So the kids must know that the safe zone is the nurse's office. The kids probably, if they wanted to use the bathroom, they could go there. Do they know that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked a lot about, Anne's talked to you a lot about the negative, but I think for the high schoolers especially, we're teaching them balance and we're teaching them resiliency. And quite a few of them, I have to commend, are very open with me, and it's a place they can come to. They can use the bathroom there. They also know that they can go to Anne or John, as well as many of the other staff if they feel uncomfortable in the situation. And quite honestly, we're seeing a lot of them doing that. So we're very hopeful. Yes, Tricia.
Please keep an eye on the buses too.
Here, buses.
I'm a little confused. Is it pot and nicotine and these juices, or could be one or the other, or all together? And if there's nicotine, is this leading to cigarette usage?
It definitely can be one or all of them. I think that's kind of more of the draw to the vaporizers as well, is that it's kind of a one-stop shop. You can use marijuana, you can use wax, you can use juice. Pretty much anything the kids can stick in there and ignite, they can use. But sold commercially, you can only purchase the juices and nicotine.
So you can purchase the nicotine and the juices, and are
Right.
kids under 21 allowed to purchase the nicotine?
I believe it's dependent on the town, I believe Sherwood and Dover is 21. But other towns like Holliston, it may just be 18.
And for the teenager, that nicotine can be highly addictive.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So,
because I guess it's just very confusing, because they'll come back and say, oh, you know, it's safe, there are cigarettes, there's nothing in it, but then in fact there is, so.
They do sell a juice that does not contain nicotine, but like they said, you're still inhaling, you know.
Right, it's not a
Whatever.
great idea.
Yeah.
But
I mean, nicotine is the addictive drug in regular tobacco, correct?
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, just because it's just in liquid form, it's still addictive. Doesn't matter if you're vaping it or smoking it in a regular cigarette. Honestly, we used to have an issue with chewing tobacco at the high school and cigarettes. We would catch kids in the parking lot smoking cigarettes. It's not as common as it used to be anymore. We do quite a bit of directed patrols in the high school parking lot on a daily basis, probably at least 2 shifts, sometimes more. And it's not as busy as it used to be, but we still catch some activity occasionally. Getting back to cameras, great idea. I would love to start with 2 cameras facing the parking lot, considering of all the activity that has gone on over there since, I've been the SRO now for 6 years. Lots of thefts, lots of drug activity in the parking lot. So just have 2 cameras facing that lot so we can see who's going in and out, which cars are coming in and out at which times. Huge. I'll just leave it. I'll leave it there. That'll be up to you guys.
I have an incoming freshman next year. What kind of education will they get as a class, sort of, because I think the high school is a different, so far we've had no issues in the middle school in terms of that, but I just wonder how the ground is laid for them when they're coming in, just to know.
As far as
if
this
they walk
topic?
into the bathroom and they see, just kind of what goes on in the high school different than what would be.
Right. So I think, when we transition them at different points, their orientation, when we do meet and greets, I think a large message that we message to freshmen, and hopefully if there's any freshman parents here, is that our door, guidance door, we're open for kids to sort of come in, and we want to, open that door. We have an open door policy. We want you to tell us things that, are threatening or scary. We really want to hear from you and respond to that, and we do. So hopefully that's a culture that we've sort of cultivated, if you may. As far as the actual education and prevention, it's through the health classes. And that's my short answer. They do receive it. They receive health education in 8th grade too, where they're talking about these things. But I think you're really talking about sort of what to do with, the command.
I actually just taught 2 8th grade health classes, and I do the whole. I pretty much cover everything from regular tobacco to vaporizers to marijuana to alcohol, and what happens, the consequences. I don't get into the health portion of it because I don't have enough time. It's more from law enforcement and on what happens if we find any of this stuff.
Understand, please, that the numbers on the Metro West Health was 25%.
Yeah.
As we do things with Span DS, that means 75% of the kids aren't. So we don't need everybody charging out of here and ripping the bedroom to pieces and drowning the kid because you have a chapstick container in the room. We're asking you to be aware. So when you see something, say something. That seems to be the popular phrase that we should all be paying attention to. If you see something, say something to the kid. I notice you have that. What's this all about? Talk to them. And that'll be your opportunity. Well, this is where it starts. It's great. You're inhaling cherry juice, but next week it's going to turn into something else, and then that's going to turn into something else, and it's going to be a problem. So it's out there. It may not be in your house, but it might be. That's up to you guys to find out.
How many people have been suspended this year for it? It seems like it would be very difficult to actually catch a person in a bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
The violation would be the actual possession of it, so it's not like they have to catch them, red-handed. It can be in their backpack, it can be in their car.
Can you say, I know it's in your pocket, and they say it's not, can you check their pocket? Or?
Right, we have a lower threshold of sort of reasonable cause to search, and so if a teacher comes and says, I saw this on the desk, it looked like a pen, but it was, that would be reason to search and be able to do that. So yeah.
Do you see a lot of repeat offenders? I mean, are they the same same kids all the time, or you could just, it's always someone new?
Yeah, so I'm just in my 2nd year. No, I would say no. I think that, it's what you hope the suspension does. It gets them to reflect and think and hopefully change behaviors.
So I'm wondering about the protocol on Amazon for purchasing online, because I think that that's probably a really, really big threat. And I'm just wondering from a law enforcement standpoint, age restriction,
check a box, are you 18?
Yeah.
You check a box. So if your kid can tell a lie, he can buy an e-cigarette.
I'm finding that on my credit card with Xbox, all that, so.
Yeah. And I mean, you get money orders, cash, you know, things like that. I mean, whatever these companies make. Like I said, gift cards from little Johnny's birthday, from grandma, you know, Visa cards that have a $100 limit on it. It's in his name. There you go. They don't have to ask you, you don't have to know. And you just have to understand that they can have it shipped to somewhere where you guys would never know. They have it shipped to a friend's house where they know, you know, they can set up the order date on Prime, so it's going to be delivered in 2 days. You know, my friend Mikey's parents worked till 8 o'clock at night that day. There you go. They plan this stuff. It's scary, but it's true.
I have another question.
We got one right up front. Him?
I think a bunch of people probably just went around rapid fire and email about the tampon container that actually has for the alcohol for the shot. Yeah, boosters. Are you seeing that? I'm just sort of blown away in terms of finding this kind of the highlight was enlightening today too. I'm just wondering, are you seeing that? Is that? Would it be? It seems virtually impossible to be able to confiscate or find something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't experienced that. I mean, I think a student would have to sort of appear impaired, and then we would do the search. So I will say, you know, we had a couple of social school events at school, and it's been great. Kids have been amazing. You know, we do football games. We haven't, you know, so I think that's great. So, but, you know, not.
Is the containers that you're talking about with the liquid in it, is it labeled? Like, if we were to find it, how would we know what was in it?
They're like small plastic right here. They're like, they almost.
They glass or plastic. Yeah, they look like vials. There's one up here on the handout that I have. It's just going to look like a dark fluid. It may say something along the lines of like one of the main company. It's Slimmy's e-juice, and they have it. It's on the vial. It's on the label.
It almost looks like an eye drop. Yes, they do. They label juice, whatever. It's, yeah. Yes, it actually gives a milligram of nicotine in it.
So she just asked, what is the benefit of having the juice without the nicotine in it? You still get the vape. You still get to look cool.
So it's pretty cool. That's what.
Yeah, you still get the vape even though you don't put the nicotine in your body. You still get to inhale it.
So, but for teens, like I'm trying to figure out, that's basically a teen would buy it because they're not trying to kick a smoking habit. They just look cool because they're vaping and.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to fit in.
I think it's a modern day, like,
Yeah.
the modern day trying cigarettes, you know, and I think it's evolved to that, and, you know where that goes.
Is there a grade where you're seeing the kids are starting this, and along with that, is there a grade where you're seeing the usage peaking?
You know, I think it's like a lot of the behaviors, the older they get, the numbers tend to creep up. You know, it's alcohol, marijuana. We see when you look at the numbers, they definitely, you know, I have the middle school Metro West numbers. They're very small. I think it's like 3%. So e-cigarettes, 6% of middle school, 7 and 8, not 6. 6% of middle school youth have tried an e-cigarette, and 3% have used one in the past 30 days. So that, you know, I think we can sort of trend that. But I'm not seeing. I would say all ages, every grade.
Maybe rephrasing the question, do you feel with your experience at DS that the kids are trying it just once or twice to see what it's like, or are you seeing that once they try it, it is kind of leading to increased usage as they get older?
I think it's probably like anything. You have teenagers that try it and walk away from it. You have that try it, maybe stay with it for a while, then walk away, and then they try it and they're with it for a while. So I think I don't think we really search for that kind of data, but I think that's, you know, my experience tells me that it's probably all of that. But
yeah, so when I think about the social norming campaigns that have gone on, and we talk about this at home, and just curious to know what's really happening.
I will say in 7th grade there that I usually teach 3 groups at a time. No, I'm sorry, 3 groups in a year, and a large majority of the kids in the class, they know what this stuff is. If I bring it up, they asking me questions, and I'm like, how do you know that? I don't ask them how do you know that, because part of the 7th grade there is extracting what they know, because I'm learning too. With the social networking, what these kids are allowed to look at and follow on their iPhones and on the computer is amazing. Sometimes they blow me away with their knowledge, and I'm like, oh, I just learned something from 7th grade.
What do they tell you?
They just know what the stuff is. Yeah, they know what vaporizers are, they know what marijuana is, they ask me about the heroin epidemic, they ask me about cocaine, it's crazy.
And they're not afraid to ask.
They're not afraid, well, part of it is I try to be real soft about it. I try to make them understand that whatever you ask me in this classroom, I don't run home and hide in your bushes to catch you doing this stuff. Like, I want to know what you know. Yeah. I don't hide very well. And, the thing is, it's just to understand, because as they get older, if they know what this stuff is, they're better equipped to identify it and get away from it. All right? And I tell them right at the beginning, I'm not going to tell you where to get it, how to do it. But I'm going to tell you what it does to your body and what happens if an officer runs into you with this stuff. But they know what it is.
Think about who their role models are. Are they mesmerized by the Kardashians? Or what other Instagram or Facebook or Twitter feed are they following, getting their 160 characters of information blasted at them from every direction?
They know where Lamar Odom was and what he was doing. That's scary.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So that's just stuff you have to be conscious of. Back up.
So if I understand you correctly, at the end of September, all of this paraphernalia is illegal for kids under 18? Is that what you're saying? All of this paraphernalia? Yes.
E-cigs, vapors.
It shouldn't be single. Anyway, because it's illegal. It's not just a training thing. Kids under 8 are recommended.
But some kids are
Even the cherry
seniors.
juice.
Some kids are 18 the senior year too.
Okay, no,
But you still can't bring it onto campus.
but it wasn't illegal before September. Some of these kids could have owned it even if they were minor.
Now, again, illegal or against the school policy, there's two different things. So none of us can arrest a kid for having an e-cigarette. They can absolutely get launched from school for a couple of days for having it. So in some cases, the school's policy and the school's handbook has much more teeth than what we could do through the court system. So that's where we're relying on our cooperation.
So they
and
can't
our
have a
relationship.
cigarette legally, but they can have an e.
I don't believe they can purchase those if they're under 18 as well.
Okay.
I believe they're the same age as cigarettes.
Someone purchase it for them.
Or yeah, you can buy it online. Yeah.
What's happening with the Holliston store? Are people, do we know if our kids are able to get in there? Are they being good about not selling to minors? Are they
It's,
following the rules?
Well, then you're running into the fake ID problem.
I mean, it is always packed over there, I'll tell you that much. I drive by there every day, and it is packed all day. There's young, high school-looking kids in there, and the parking lot's full all day. And they're decorated up, they got bright colors, and it looks cool to go in, but there's always kids in that parking lot.
It's just like alcohol. You pay somebody over the age of 21 $30 to go in and buy you a $20 bottle or whatever. They keep the other 10. I mean, I'm sure that's probably what's going on around these smoke shops.
Is there any movement to get that store out of Holliston, or?
I don't know.
After
It's
what
tax
Holliston passed last night, I know that they voted in the town of Holliston to allow a 200-acre marijuana grow farm.
So probably not.
Especially once this passes, the recreational use of marijuana passes. And it's going to open up a whole different ballgame.
Now we can have Ben hide over in you will hide behind someone.
Yeah, how about here?
On college kids?
What's your majority numbers on college kids?
Okay. I'm good, you know. Yeah. I imagine it's,
Higher.
yeah.
I can give you anecdotal data. It's high. So, but I do want to echo something that Chief McGowan said, because I've sat through
many conversations like this before where my heart starts to seize and I start getting really anxious because I'm thinking, oh my God, everybody's doing it. It's just a matter of time before my child jumps in. And it's not the case. You have to take a step back and remember, in this case, at Dover Sugar, 75% of the kids are not doing it. And so our goal is to raise that number for sure. And what we do know is that parents are the number one believable source for our Dover Sugar kids about drugs and alcohol. That's what they've told us. They've also told us that they get their information from other sources first. So we as parents really, our hope and our goal for today is to help all of us become more educated about this, to learn more about it, and then to start thinking about how do we have conversations with our kids? How do we sit down and understand what they're experiencing? If they're using, why are they using? If they're not using, how do we keep them and empower them not to use? And they do listen to you, and I think they actually listen to you all through college, although maybe a little less. I have 2 college graduates and 1 in college now. So it really comes back to us. And I again want to remind you, it's not an epidemic, but it is something we're seeing more of. Are there other questions?
Well, I just want to go back to your comment about 2 security cameras in the parking lot, and I hope that if that's something that the police who work closely with us feel like
yes.
they want, you take it to the school committee, and I'm sure you have support. So,
How much does that run?
Oh, I'm not sure. I just, yeah, it's expensive.
You have to figure out, who's going to monitor it. It's going to be the schools, it's going to be the police department. There's a lot to think.
I had a case last year where we had 2 people that were from out of town. I want to say it was Ashland and Framingham. They came to the Dover parking lot, broke in to 4 different cars and sold almost $2,000 worth of stuff. The reason why we were able to solve it was because they did the same thing in Franklin, and Franklin has cameras. So, in Wellesley too, they did the same thing in Wellesley. Wellesley, we were able to charge these 2 because of the cameras in Franklin.
I think it's been passed, not passed, but I think it's been brought up to school committee in the past, and they've always shut it down.
Yeah.
So like, why do you need cameras in the parking lot? It's not, I don't know what the cost was, but maybe 3 or 4 years ago, it went through school committee and it got shut down. So if people have to be worried and...
Yeah. Get a cardboard cutout of each and mark it.
One more thing to say about the students who have asthma, and I don't know, is this a health hazard to even be around, like going into a restroom where that's happened? I would imagine it's not a good thing to be around the vapors, just as it isn't to be around a cigarette or any other kind of. But we have a lot of students who have asthma, and I think that even that political issue could be addressed too as part of this conversation to keep student and their peers safe too.
Yeah. That's a very good question, and we have a lot of kids at the high school with underlying conditions, and one of those is asthma. And I think we've been raising awareness, and once again, someone pointed out that we think that a lot of kids are doing it. When I want to tell you that the high school is very, very safe, so are the bathrooms for our children. Those with asthma, I have really not seen a lot of asthma flares. A couple times if they won the mile race around the track, I've seen people come in, but otherwise we've had a very good fall. So I want you to rest assured that your children are safe.
I'm just worried about this kind of drug use impacting those kids, so. I know I don't want to put my children in a smoky atmosphere because they kind of trigger.
I mean, the good news is that as you can, when Ved did the demonstration, it disappears pretty quick.
Yeah.
And it was a small plume of smoke. So I mean, again, I'm just saying, if you secondhand smoke, I don't know much about secondhand vapor yet. I mean, we haven't. Yeah, that's what I mean. So we're not. Again, we're still. The research is still up.
And they're probably not doing
came up with another thing. Are you seeing, so can you take pot, like the little leaves, and stick it into these vaporizer things?
Yeah. Right here. Yep.
And is that what you do?
More the e-cigarettes than the vaporizer.
Hold up the e-cigarette?
Yeah.
I think there's some on the chair here. So this is a vaporizer, it's mostly used for liquids and things like that.
All right, so you put it in there.
That's where you put it.
Do you need liquid in here?
No, that you can burn the leaves dry.
And will it smell like hot?
That'll smell like pot, yeah. They're going away from that because it
Smells like hot.
smells like pot. Exactly.
E-cigarettes are used more for the leafy type. The vaporizers are more for like a liquid type.
Actually, I do have a question for you. Can you talk a little bit about the philosophy of both of those sugar and departments and how you handle parties and if, you break up a party and you find this paraphernalia or alcohol, what is your philosophy behind how you deal with students and parents?
I can speak for Dover. If we're called to a party, a house party, we do find any type of contraband, whether it be alcohol, drugs, this type of stuff, what have you. We'll handle it on a case-by-case basis. The parents will always be notified, and in every case, the school will be notified. So even if there's an infraction of the chemical health policy on a Saturday afternoon, that's still going to affect them Monday morning when they get back to school. As I said, sometimes the school's policy and the school's handbook is much more effective as a deterrent than it would be, oh, okay, let's go to court and pay a $100 fine and don't do that again, young man. Because no one wants to permanently affect anybody's record until it's time to affect someone's record. So.
And I would ditto that philosophy for on behalf of the town of Sherburne Police Department. And I would also like to add that we do have a great working relationship between the two police departments. So if we're dealing with kids in Sherburne that are Dover residents, go to the regional school, the officers are right on the phone the next day with the Dover officers and explain to them what's going on. So we've got a great working relationship and we collaborate often.
And that's all the surrounding towns too. We have a relationship with all the school resource officers, Medfield, Walpole, Needham, Wellesley, Natick. Talk to them all pretty much on a weekly basis. We had a conference with them all yesterday. So if Dover kids say, well, we'll just go to Westwood and get trashed, we're going to find out. Especially when the head football coach is the Westwood school resource officer.
I recently heard of an incident involving alcohol in Sudbury, but I wonder how this would apply to these vaporizers in Dover and Sherburne. So say you have a teenager who's driving, and they're legally allowed to drive other kids in the car. They're not drinking, and they're not using a vaporizer, but they get stopped, and a kid in the car is in possession of the vaporizer or the e-cig. What happens to the driver?
Is it using it at the time?
Well, no, it's like
The driver is just providing transportation. They're the designated.
There's a statute that addresses alcohol, possession of alcohol
Right.
in motor vehicles, so there's nothing like that.
Is there anything that applies to vaporizers and e-cigs?
Not yet.
We would probably just take it if they were under the age of 18.
This kid in Sudbury got in trouble, didn't even know the kids in the car had possession of alcohol. It was a problem. It was a small.
You're in control of the car, you're responsible for what's in it, so.
Alcohol is a very broad reach to every kid that's near it.
So right now, there's no law about transporting it knowingly or unknowingly, transporting a kid in possession of a vaporizer.
Is it coming? I mean, is that legislation in the works or have you haven't heard anything?
I would argue that with the way the state's moving toward legalizing marijuana.
Is that just pure, I mean, is that really financially driven, or is that really, like, what drives that decision for a state to control legalization?
Lobbyists, there's an amazing amount of money that comes in from out of state and across the country interests, that once they get their foot in the door and once they got to pass in Colorado, that's their touchstone. It's legal in Colorado, what's wrong with you people? Once they get their foot in the door, now everybody's doing it. It works on your kids, it works on us. Well, everybody's doing it, it's okay. And that's what the whole push is. As soon as they get one state, they roll over and focus on the next state. If they get that state to cave, then now there's 2 or 3 or 4 states that are doing it. And it just, people get defeated. Well, it's coming. I mean,
A lot of money to be made too.
tons of money. I mean, it's huge money. Ohio just turned it down, and there was an article I read in there was hundreds of millions of dollars at stake for these 12 investors that had the inside track on the marijuana business in Ohio. And that was all flushed because it went down at the polls. So if we're fortunate enough to say no at the polls and not get fooled like we did last time with the medical marijuana, we'll all be in better shape. That's a whole nother conversation that you're going to set up.
In Holliston?
What's that?
Where is it in Holliston?
What? They just approved it. I don't think they did the location, but they haven't set it up yet, right?
Right. It's the first step.
They gave them permission to approach the town to go forward with it, is what it is. It hasn't been identified yet.
Okay, we are at 12:15, and I want to thank all of our panelists for taking time out. I also want to thank the many SPANDS reps, parent reps, who have worked behind the scenes to pull this off. It's greatly appreciated. I'm going to ask you to please fill out your surveys that are on your seats, and for those of you on the webinar, if you would please fill out those surveys as well. And lastly, if you're on Facebook, please friend SPANDS, and you will be getting loads of articles on different topics that are very informational.